Hello beautiful scrappy friends, it's Belinda and I'm back today with another process video. This is another one that I've had, or some photos that I've had put aside, meaning to scrap for quite a while. Some time ago I created the layout that you can see in the top right corner for Cut to You. This was one of their Kit to You products, and I had more photos that I wanted to document from this little photo series that I have of my kids from a few years ago, and I'd been meaning to create a layout, and so here we are. I've got another Cut to You cut file that I'm using, which coordinates really well with the cut file that was on the original layout. And as you can see just off to the top left there, I have already gone ahead and cut my photos into circles using some nested circle dies that I have. I've also cut some coordinating patterned papers from circles, and those are using a stitched circle die. And I have backed my cut file over to the right hand side of the screen now. I do like to work on a lovely clean white background and to mat my pages on a pattern paper background. So you've just seen me doing that there while I've been chatting away. And what I want to do is I really want to create some unity and cohesion between the two pages. And because my original page featured some stitched circles and there was a really circle heavy theme there, I want to replicate some of those elements onto the page here. So I've just lightly tacked down my cut file where it's going to sit on the page. And then I have this really handy circle piercing template. Now this is from Fiskars. I have no idea if it's available anymore. I'm pretty sure I actually purchased this and a couple of other ones from a buy and sell page on Facebook, but this is super handy to have. It's got all these nested circles and the piercing holes. So if you're like me and you really like things to look quite neat and uniform, something like a tool like this is really handy. Otherwise, I'm sure that you could create something similar just by using some die cut circles as templates. So when I am piercing these holes, what I'm doing now is I've pulled the cut file away and I'm just adding a couple of extra holes to each set of circles, so that when I do my hand stitching, it does disappear all the way behind the cut file. And that just allows me a little bit of wiggle room. So if my cut file doesn't go down exactly where I wanted it to or where I had planned it to, I've got just a little bit of leeway here. So I have done all that stitching off camera, and I have used the same color threads that I used in the original layout. And now I've got those beautiful little stitched circles popping out on the background behind my cut file. And I'm ready to start arranging these photos. Now I apologize, I am out of focus a little bit here. I'm not sure what was going on with my camera. I filmed this a little while ago. I've just only been able to get back into editing now. But I had a pretty solid design idea in mind before I started working on this page. So that did make this part of the creation process just work a little bit quicker. So I knew that I wanted to cascade these photos coming down the page. They are all the same size. They are all matted on some plain white cardstock, which I've also run through with that stitched circle die. And just to give the layout a little bit more dimension and to help these photos really stand out against that beautiful cut file, I have added some foam tape to the back of them. Now I use a gigantic roll of foam tape, or it's actually foam photo mounting tape, which you can see there, which I purchased from Bunnings here in Australia. It is acid free. It's way cheaper than any of the products that are designed or specifically marketed towards scrapbookers and paper crafters. But the trade-off for this is that it is super sticky, and the backing is pretty tricky to get off. So I always use a little poking tool there just to lift that backing off and to help me make life a little bit easier for me. And then I wanted to bring in some more pops of color, again trying to create some cohesion between this and the original layout. So I have got these pattern papers that I have cut down into circles using that stitched circle die that I have, and I'm just going to be going and arranging these, tucking them in and around the photos. Now what ends up happening once I have layered all these down is that a lot of that cut file does end up hidden, which I understand would probably bother some people to have done all of that work only to have it covered up. It really doesn't bother me all of that much. I like to give myself options. So I do fill in the whole cut file. And if I end up covering it and only having just a few pieces peeking out, then I'm happy with that, because it's about the fun of creation for me. And it's also about how the overall finished product looks in the end. So sure, I've wasted a little bit of time backing a cut file that didn't need to be backed. But I love the way that this layout ends up looking in the end. I'm really just super happy with it. So here I am trying to pull some of that backing off, because I had tucked this one down behind some of the photos. It was a little bit trickier to pull that off. But I think that's about it. I've just about got all the circles in place, just trying to figure out where to put that last little pink one. And then I will go away and get out some embellishments ready to start embellishing. So if you have been joining me in any of my previous videos, you will know that when it comes to embellishing, this is the part of the process that typically takes me the longest. I can be a little bit indecisive, and I definitely tend to overthink the way where I'm placing things. I'd like to think that I'm getting better, but I'm not sure. Again, I apologize for being out of focus. I don't know what was going on with my camera this day. But because this is already quite a busy layout, when I've gone through the embellishments from this, I believe it's a crepe paper Maggie Holmes collection, I have just pulled out some of the smaller embellishments. So I don't want anything too big, because they will get lost in the busyness of the background. So I'm just choosing some small elements, and I am creating just 3 clusters, one at the bottom, one sort of in the middle and the left, and one at the top right. And I have tried to grab some pieces that I maybe wouldn't typically use. So up to the top right there, you can see I've got a little windmill, which really is not at all relevant to anything that we have here in my part of the world, which is Perth in Western Australia. However, my husband's father was from the Netherlands, so I thought, hey, my kids have some Dutch heritage, let's put that windmill in here. We'll get a little bit abstract about it. So I have fussy cut some florals from pattern papers to fill in some of the clusters. I love including florals in my embellishments. I just think it's such a pretty way to build an embellishment cluster. I've also added a couple of these little birds in. I think when I took these photos of my kids a few years ago, I may have shared them to my Instagram page and referred to them being 2 little dicky birds. This was going back, I think, about 3 years now, when they got along much better than they do now. They had a lot more smiles and kindness for each other than they do now that they've grown a little bit older and their personalities have developed, and they are 2 very different children. So I am looking back at these photos right now, and it's definitely bringing me a little bit of a smile. And I'm looking back at that time that we had together in 2020, when COVID was just starting to really take off around the world. And I'm looking back at that time quite fondly now, if I'm being honest. So I'm just fiddling around with getting all of these pieces stuck down. I'm using some foam tape or some foam adhesive, just cutting it into pieces just to lift some of those floral edges up off the page a little bit. And then I'm also using some wet adhesive to make sure that everything is going to stick down nice and tight where it is, and it's not going to move around. I'm also not afraid of cutting pieces up and covering them up. So you can, I did cut, there was an oval shaped sticker which had a picture of a girl inside it, and I've just cut that up and used it as sort of a foundation for a couple of the embellishment clusters there. I'm not afraid of doing that. It is about making your supplies work for you. So once I've finished adding these little tiny little hearts and flowers, then that should be it for the embellishing. All that is left in just a moment is for me to come in and add some gold splatters using my Heidi Swap. Oh no, hang on, I do need to add a date first. I'm going to do that with this pattern paper, and then I'm going to come in with the gold colour shine. I am fortunate that I do still have nearly a full bottle of that gold colour shine, so I am using it sparingly, because as as most of us know, it is no longer being made. So that is pretty much it for this process video. I do hope that you've enjoyed what I have shared with you today. If you have, I'd love for you to go ahead and leave me a comment or give me a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me on my paper crafting adventures. So there are some close-up photos coming in just a moment. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.